My name is Ahmanii, and I am a member of Central Library Social Media Team. Today, I'd like to spotlight Ms. Greta Perry, a member of Manassas Therapy Dogs. This wonderful organization helps bring smiles and happiness to children that participate in Prince William Public Library's popular Reno Dogs program. Hi, Ms. Perry.
Hi, how are you, Ahmanii?
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
How long have you been associated with Manassas Therapy Dogs, and how many dogs do you have?
I have 2 dogs. I've been with this organization for 18 years. And do you want to meet my 2 dogs?
Sure.
Okay, Sophie, come here. This is Sophie. Can you shake hands, Sophie? Hey, so up. Can you shake hands for me? Good girl. All right. Here's Duke. They're both purebred chocolate Labrador retrievers.
Cool.
Sophie's 8 years old and Duke is 4 years old. Okay, good boy. Okay.
Now I have to get a chocolate Labrador. Aw, how cute. Now back to the interview.
Do you know what the difference between a therapy dog and a service dog is?
Yes.
Okay, so service dogs are trained by professionals for a specific service. If they're going to provide service for someone who's hearing impaired or for the blind, there's specific things that dog has to learn, and they are trained by professionals. Therapy dogs are trained by the handlers, the owners. In our organization, we have everything from St. Bernards to miniature dachshunds and everything in between. So all kinds of dogs.
That's wonderful.
They're good. But in our organization, we have everything from St. Bernards to miniature dachshunds and everything in between. So all kinds of dogs.
That's wonderful. People often think of dogs as active, playful pets. What do therapy dogs do? And are dog handlers randomly paired with therapy dogs?
Okay, well, when we go to the elementary schools, or actually now, recently, we've been going to other schools, but elementary schools, we go in for a reading program. It's called Pause for Reading. And we meet with students. Let me just tell you about my experience. I meet with about 4 students at a time, and we all sit on the floor, and the dog lays down on the floor in front of them so that they can interact with the dog. And then they actually read stories to the dog. And I will ask them questions about the story to make sure that they understand what they're reading. And then this one teacher told me that one of her children just spoke very softly. She said, anything you can do to make her speak up. So she was reading to the dog, and I said, Linda, I don't think that Sophie heard that. Can you read it again a little bit louder? So she read it again. And I said, I looked over at Sophie. I said, Sophie, did you hear what Linda read? And Sophie turned around and looked at Linda. And I said, yes, she understood what you were saying. So then later I saw that same teacher, and she said, I don't know what you did, but Linda is just, she volunteers to read. She's loud. Everybody can hear her. And so, I think it's really good for the kids to come and to be able to read. They're reading to the dog. They're not reading to me. And dogs are not, they don't criticize, if you miss a word or something, they don't care. But it gives the kids a lot of confidence to read to the dogs.
They're so supportive. Are there any special training to become a therapy dog team that participates in community events?
There is. The dogs have to pass 3. Well, there's 10 different areas in 3 different tests that is set by the national office, which is in Wyoming. And each dog has to pass all of these measures on the test. And for a dog, it would be like they're not allowed to bark inside of a building. They're not allowed to come within 2 feet of another dog. They're not allowed to jump up on anybody or up on the beds if you're in a hospital. When we're visiting at a hospital, I knock on the door, ask them if they would like to visit with my therapy dog. And if they say yes, the dog sits outside the room. And if the person says yes, then I invite the dog into the room And he goes over and sits beside the bed and puts his head on the bed so that the person can pet his head. And if the dog walks into the room before he's invited, that's an automatic failure. If they bark in the building, that's an automatic failure. If they jump up on anybody or if they growl or anything, that's an automatic failure. So there's a lot of testing that goes on, and the owners do the actual testing themselves. So there's a lot of testing that goes, and not every dog that is tested meets that criteria and passes the test.
Interesting. I never knew how much preparation goes into this job. What do you think is the most rewarding part being the dog handler?
For us as the handler, I think being human beings trying to interact with the people that we visit, seeing the enjoyment that they get out of the dogs, their eyes just light up and there's smiles on their faces. And we hear a lot from family members of people who are maybe visiting their dad who's in a nursing home, and they'll walk out into the hall with us and just thank us and thank us and thank us for coming. Because she said his day is always better after the dogs leave, after their visit, because it just, sometimes they talk about the dogs that they used to have growing up, and it brings back good memories for them. And we get a lot of thank you from staff. And if we haven't been there for a while, they will call us and ask us if we can come back, that the patients are asking for the dogs to come back. So I think they bring a lot of comfort and smile and joy to the people that we visit.
That's so heartwarming. It sounds like a fun, gratifying way to give back to your community.
Do
Do dogs also benefit from the programs and visits?
Well, you got to realize dogs are animals and they don't think the way people do. You can tell if a dog is enjoying himself just by his body movements, his expression on his face. You can also tell if a dog is stressed. And if you try to visit too long, a dog, if you ask a dog to do something and he just lays down, he's saying, okay, I'm tired, Mom. We've done this enough. That's enough. Or if he doesn't pay, you talk to him and ask him to do something. If they turn their head away from you, that means, yeah, I heard you, but I'm not really interested. So they enjoy it to a point, but you don't want to press them. You wouldn't go and visit for an hour at a time with one person. The dog just wouldn't like that. So I'm there to watch out for my dog's welfare, number one. So they will tell you if they're having fun, their tails are going, their tongues are hanging out, they're, breathing, and you can just tell, your dogs, and you can tell if they're having fun or if they're stressed out or they're tired and they want to go home now.
Okay, now I know when they're tired and when they're not. Why do you think the Range Dogs program is so popular with the kids? Do the kids just have a natural bond with the dogs?
I think they do. The teachers really like it, and not all teachers want to participate in the pause for reading, and that's okay. But I've worked with kids from kindergarten through 5th grade over the years. A lot of the kids will see me in the hallway when we're on our walking to the library, and they'll say, Mrs. Perry, can I come and read with the dogs today? And I said, well, you have to check with your teacher, because your teacher is the one who chooses who comes to the library to read. I had this one little boy, I think his name was Oliver. And there were 4th graders, and they were sitting down in a little semicircle, and the dog was laying there. So when Oliver came in, everybody else was sitting up here so they could pet the dog, and we could talk about our story and everything. Well, Oliver was sitting about 10 feet back there. And I said, Oliver, would you like to come up and sit beside Sophie? And he said, no, I'm fine. I'm good. And I knew that he had a fear of dogs, and it was very brave of him to even come that day. Because before the kids can come to visit with the dogs, there's paperwork that the parents have to sign to let them know this is a dog, they're trained, they're not going to bite or growl or bark or anything like that. But I need to know if your child is afraid of dogs, or if they have dog allergies or anything like that. So I knew that Oliver had a fear of dogs. So he sat back there and I said, that's okay, Oliver, just follow along in the book. So when it comes your turn to read, you'll be ready for us. So he did. And the next week, he was sitting 2 or 3 feet closer. And then the next week he was a little bit closer. And I would say by week 4, he was sitting right up there in the circle with the other kids. And I said, do you want to touch my dog? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, let me hold his head and you take one finger and touch his back. So he did that. And by the time, I think we were reading with each group for about 8 weeks. And by the time that session was over, Oliver was coming in, he was hugging Sophie and petting her and touching her on the nose. And I think it really helped him get over his fear of animals. But if he had stayed 10 feet back from everybody else and he read when it was his time to read, I would have called that a success.
Mm.
Yeah.
It really is perfect for a kid to improve their confidence and reading skills. I loved going to the reading the dog events when I was younger.
Yeah. Have you gone to the library when dogs have come to the library to read?
Yeah.
Okay. Did your elementary school have therapy dogs that come in and do a reading program?
No, I'm actually homeschooled, but I went every time there was a library event.
You went to that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, you probably saw some of our dogs. We go to that all the time.
Do you have anything else to share with our audience?
I think our organization, we have about 50 members right now, and that's constantly changing. New people are being tested and coming in, and sometimes the dogs, dogs get old, as we all do. And sometimes an owner will say, well, I'm going to have to retire my dog because he's just, he's 12, he's 13, he's 14. He's tired and I just don't want him to do this anymore. So they retire, people move away. So the numbers are constantly changing. But one thing I want to mention to you, the people in this group are totally 100%, 110% committed to therapy dog service in the community. They want to give back. Now, sure, I have to say, in all honesty, it's a great way for us to show off our dogs because we think we have the greatest. Everybody thinks they have the greatest dog, and they do. But in some dogs, our dogs, for example, do tricks. We do lots and lots of tricks. And other dogs like to go just to visit, just to be petted. But the people are totally committed. If I put out an announcement that Central Library would like to have a team come on Wednesday night to read with the kids for an hour, I get all kinds of volunteers because they want to be there for the kids and to be there for the community. Real quickly, one time we went to, this was years ago. I don't think there's anybody in our organization who was there at the time, but we were invited to go to the children's burn camp. And all I knew was these were children. I think they had bussed them down from New Jersey, if I remember correctly. And they went to this camp for like 2 weeks, and each of these children from age 5 to 16, I think, had been involved in very serious either automobile accidents where they were burned or house fires, and very disfigured and scars, and just, you can just imagine. So I signed up for it, and my husband said, yeah, I think that's something that we should do. So I was sitting in church one morning and I was thinking, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with that. If I see a little child that's all disfigured and scarred and everything, I just don't know if I can do that. And then I was sitting there in church and I have no idea, I don't remember what the sermon was about, but I was thinking all the time about these children, and I thought, well, if I can't do that, then why am I even in therapy dog service? So we went to that camp and we spent the whole day at that camp. It was about an hour and a half from here. And those kids, the dogs don't see that. They don't see the color of your skin. They don't see how heavy you are or how thin you are. They don't see any of that. They see you. They look in your eyes and they see you. And the dogs loved it. And these kids had the greatest time throwing a ball or a frisbee, or we took brushes and we'd let them brush the dogs, and they would ask lots of questions. And they just had a wonderful time forgetting their personal circumstances. They were children, they were children. And I think we took about 8 dogs that day. And those kids just had a wonderful time. And the dogs loved it because all they want to do is play. And they didn't see all the disfigurements and the scars and everything. They looked at you and they saw you as the person that you really are. And that's what therapy dog's all about.
Wow, that was very inspiring. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.